kind of current events right now. Why don't you get this off the table? And if there's time later on, I'll tell you about one that's headed straight for us, but that's only if there's time. If there's time. But after we talk about asteroids, then I'll get geopolitical on it, okay? So, to show you what the world looks like to me, and to any astrophysicist. So, yeah, so there's an interesting, you don't want to be on Earth that day. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah. It's artist rendering. This is a little bigger than what, yeah, that's a lot bigger actually than what took out the dinosaurs. So this is an artist rendering of something that would end all life on Earth. And we expect that a lot of this happened back when Earth was forming, before life even took hold. So that's what we expect there. And I didn't hear from Arizona. Arizona is famous for its holes in the ground. And this is one of them. All right, I was there a week ago on the rim of this crater in Arizona. For the same trip, I also visited the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon, you look over the ledge. That's grand. And that's kind of cool until you learn that it took millions of years to build it and to carve it. And then I come here. This crater is nearly a mile across, and you could sink a 60-story building. 60. So another way to look at this: if there was a football game playing at the bottom, and you put seats along the rim, it could seat 1 million people. Now, there's plenty of parking area. That wouldn't be a problem. But this thing hit about 50,000 years ago. I was way more impressed by this thing than by the Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon is beautiful, but it took 1 million years. This took 7 seconds to make. Right? And so I have way more respect for what made this than for what made the Grand Canyon. This is called meteor crater. It's my field. We call it like we see it. We're not like the biologists. What's the most important molecule in the human body?
Carbon.
No, yes, but I can have a cup of water, all right?
No molecule.
And it's not me. So what makes me me? Yeah, DNA. Why do they call it DNA? Because it's got 9 syllables. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Do you know what we call the beginning of space-time and everything in the universe? Big Bang. Just saying. Big red stars, red giants. There are spots on the sun. Do you know what we call them? Sunspots, right? These are official lingo of my profession. The biologists, the chemists, especially the geologists. Any geologists here? Raise your hand. That's up. There you go. Geologists. Oh, what a pretty rock. Oh, it's orthoclase feldspar. Okay, it's not pretty. So, meteor crater. Okay. A region of space, you fall in, you don't come out, light doesn't come out, black hole. We like one-syllable words. You know why? Because the universe is complicated enough. I want to lay down a smoke screen of vocabulary just to confuse you before you even get to the meat of the subject. Do vegetarians use that phrase? Get to the celery of the subject. Get to the vegetable of the matter. I'm sorry, that had nothing to do with this. Just tell me to move on if I get off. I distract myself. Meteors sometimes they get broken apart as they move through the solar system, and then this sequence of craters here. This is actually on one of the moons of Jupiter, Ganymede, and we have close enough views of these from space probes that we've launched out to planets. And so this would have been one asteroid that broke apart, usually from the stress of the gravity of a planet that it gets a little bit too close to. But now all those pieces still have an orbit that the original one piece had, except there's one right after another. And so here they come, and they're actually hitting the same point in space. But Ganymede is rotating. And it rotates between each impact. And that's how you get it spread across on the surface. So this reminds us of the moon. It has no atmosphere, there's no erosion, there's no shield to protect it. 65 million years ago, this happened. That's about the right size. But the size of Mount Everest, an asteroid struck. And it rendered not only our favorite dinosaurs extinct, but 70% of all species of life on Earth went extinct. Extinct. Now, I was deeply concerned about something, because I showed this picture once to a high school class. And someone in the front row, now normally front row people were like smart.
Or early.
Why? Because they wanted to know that, and they sit in the front row. They got there early, you know, they know how to stay awake, you know. The back row people, you know, actually the back row people like changed the world. For either better or worse, but they changed the world. Front row people just obey all commands. And in fact, George Bernard Shaw once said that reasonable people follow instruction and do so reasonably. Unreasonable people do not follow instruction. They do things that you don't tell them to do. Therefore, all progress of the human species is attributed to unreasonable people. Someone in the front row, and raised his hands and said, Dr. Tyson, is that an actual photograph? I'm going to give up. I said my whole life has been worth nothing. Get out of the front row person. And then I thought I had fun. I said, well, actually, yeah. I said, the pterodactyl had a digital camera, and we got a chip out of the fossil. That's a big one. Smaller ones hit, but they can still do damage. That famous photo right here. This is what's sort of left over after an air blast over Siberia. Siberia, 1908. And it was an air blast, so it didn't leave a crater. The asteroid did not successfully reach the ground. It exploded in midair, and the blast was so severe that it felled trees, and it ignited a forest 10,000 square kilometers in area. So that was a bad day in Siberia. 1908. Now, 6 weeks ago, this asteroid, 2012 DA14. You want to know how we name these things? So, not that you asked, but I'll tell you. So, the first four letters, the first four numbers, that's the year. Okay. We split up the weeks of the year into semi-months, half months. So how many half months are there in a year? 24. So that's almost every letter in the alphabet. So the first asteroid discovered anew. Sorry, I keep spitting on you guys in the front row. Now I can take a step back. He said, we like it. Can you get everyone's permission to use the word we in that sentence? I don't think so. So, there's almost all the letters of the alphabet. You take away J, which is a recent letter. You take away I, because you don't know, who knows what it is in an L, you don't know. So, take away two letters. And so, this this A, B, C, D. So this would be the first asteroid discovered in the second half of February. And it is the 14th. So then the next set of letters are the hours within the day. It's 24 hours in a day. That's kind of cool. The semi-month and the semi. So once you do that, you know exactly basically when this thing was discovered based on that code. So I would like to think of it as the asteroid's phone number, right? Because it uniquely identifies it. So that asteroid was discovered about a year ago by an amateur. This asteroid is about the size of this venue. About that size. And it came up at 2:24 p.m. 6 weeks ago. It had a close approach to Earth. Now, when I think of close approaches, you know, if you come between us and the moon, that's close. I don't like that. This one, so that's our like moon space. Just stay out of my moon space. But this one had the audacity to come so close that it dipped between us and our communication satellites.
Whoa.
That's our tech space. That's like in a stranger, someone like walks up to you like this, right? In your space. It's like, get out of my space. That's what this asteroid did. I don't know if you can see this from the back row. The green circle, that's the moon's orbit around Earth. And this puppy came right on through, someone passed through the ring plane. That came through our, moon's orbit is here. That's the orbit of our communication satellites, that green circle there. And it dipped inside that. That's a shot across our bow. It did not hit us. Let's see what it looked like. So, it came 17,200 miles from Earth's surface. Our communication satellites are 22,000 miles out. So like 5,000 miles closer than the communication satellites. 200,000 tons, 50 meters across. I think I counted this right, across the room here. And it had a closing speed of about 5 miles per second. That's 18,000 miles an hour. So if that hit, that would be bad. All right? Now, that's not the most dangerous one out there, because that's only 50 meters across. Only. Here's my favorite one I think that could kill us. Apophis. Named for the Egyptian god of darkness and evil. Yes. This thing crosses Earth's orbit. And we named it after Apophis, for Apophis, after I've got people. I have asteroid colleagues who do, I don't calculate this. I have colleagues who do this. So once they found that it crossed the orbit of Earth, then they try to find a menacing god after to name it. If it were not going to cross Earth's orbit, you could name it anything else, like Tiffany or Vandy. Something non-threatening. But we knew it was going to cross Earth's orbit. We knew that it does cross Earth's orbit, and in fact, Apophis is the best thing to try to figure out how to deflect. Because Apophis is about the size of the Rose Bowl. All right? Now, I mentioned the Rose Bowl because there aren't tiers in the Rose Bowl. It's just seats all around. So imagine that just holding an asteroid, like a egg cup holds an egg. Okay? That was second position. I have some dancers in the audience. That's all I can do. Don't ask me to do anything else. We can figure out how to deflect this. We know how to deflect it. You can send a little spaceship, maybe the size of this microphone relative to me, It's almost what that would be relative to Apophis. You send it up there, and then you sort of park it. And it turns out you can't really park anything in space because the mutual gravity will want them to attract to one another. And so you prevent that. You set up little retro rockets. So you can see here, it's not, well, there are little sort of retro rockets there that prevent it from falling towards the asteroid. So it wants to fall towards it, but the rockets prevent that. But they continue to want to fall towards one another. So the act of firing the retro rockets slowly tugs the asteroid out of its harmful orbit into a different orbit. So you calculate this up, and it turns out you don't have to nudge it by much. Not much at all. You know, a few centimeters per second. Early enough that it'll miss Earth completely. It's going to have a close approach, dip below our communication satellites in 2029. April 13th. It's a Friday, yes. I'm sorry to tell you, it is a Friday, the 13th of April. So, and that it'll be like DA 2012 DA-14. It's going to dip below our communication satellites. We will know then what Earth's effect on its orbit will be to determine if it will hit us exactly 7 years later. April 13th, 2036. That's the judgment day. Not the judgment day that the asteroid will judge us. That will be the day that we will have to judge whether our knowledge of its orbit is good enough to know whether it's going to hit us. Okay? Now, that will be Thursday the 13th. So there's a simulation of what it would do if it hit. So I think this is a little movie. So it's likely to hit, if it hits us at all, it'll hit the Pacific Ocean. These are some of the parameters. And it'll hit like 500 kilometers off the coast. There it goes. And that's a 50-foot tsunami laying waste to the entire west coast of North America. So have a nice day, yeah. So the town that'll get hit first is Santa Monica. Do you live there? I don't understand. We're in Florida. Now, nobody has to die, because we would know this is what the laws of physics do. They allow us to predict the future. So we can know when this hits, and it turns out this thing plunges into the ocean, and it'll make it through the atmosphere. It's large enough to make it through the atmosphere. It'll plunge into the Pacific to a depth of about 2 or 3 miles. At which point it will explode and cavitate the ocean another 3 miles. So a big hole in the ocean. But that first punch will send a tsunami calculated by this map. And this is in meters, so that's about 50 feet, 5 stories tall. Now, so there's the tsunami, but it's still the matter of that hole in the ocean. Now, if you're a hole in the ocean, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to fill back up again. So all the water sloshes back in to fill up this monster hole, and it sloshes into itself with such ferocity that it rises up high, falls back and sets another tsunami. This repeats about every minute or so for about 45 minutes. Okay? Obviously, they're dampening each time. But the first tsunami gets notified about 25 seconds later that the next tsunami needs its water. Tsunamis need water. And if I'm going to have another tsunami coming, this one better give it up, right? So it only goes inland so far until it gets dragged back out and becomes the next tsunami. So you can calculate how far the water gets between tsunamis. It's about a quarter of a mile. About a quarter of a mile. So you could set up a velvet rope, right? And just like sell tickets, just watch the tsunami. You could do this. the entire west coast of North America. And then you could conduct this, sell tickets. Now, so what happens is the water comes in and it like breaks up the homes as the water comes in. Then it brings the homes back out, and then brings the home back in a slightly different shape. And so all the stuff we have on the coastline becomes a ablative force that basically churns away. It sandpapers down all the structures that we made on the coastline. So that's why we say it will wipe clean. Not only because water is coming in and out, but because it's taking our stuff and making an ablative force out of it. So I said nobody has to die, but I thought about it. 2 people are going to die. 2 people. Okay? Remember, this is California. So, first person to die, the stupid surfer. Okay? And it's going to be a guy surfer. Okay? Women don't do this stupid. Just look at YouTube. Either women film themselves doing stupid things, or they don't do stupid things. And guys own the stupid thing market. Right? Just look at the stupidest things people ever did, and it's guys. Right? So women, you think we're like really smart. We're just stupid. Right? So there's a stupid surfer, dead. Then there's the other guy. There's the other guy. The surfer becomes part of the ablative material. Well, the surfboard, he's too squishy to ablate anything. What? This is just biology here. What, does he have an exoskeleton? No! He has squishy flesh. So the next person who dies, that's the stupid weatherman, right? Always trying to get the camera to come a little closer. You know that, the storm broke the surf over here. Two people, that's it. Meanwhile, the same day that other asteroid came close, like one actually exploded over Siberia 6 weeks ago in Chelyabinsk, Russia, in the Ural Mountains. There's another video. I don't have to press play on this. So here's what's happening. The asteroid's coming in. We would later calculate at a speed of 40,000 miles an hour. It's about 12 miles per second. So closing speed. It enters Earth's atmosphere, begins to sort of feel the atmosphere. It starts to heat up, but not badly. The atmosphere gets denser and denser. If you ever had physics, you would ask, what becomes of this ferocious kinetic energy? The energy of motion that this asteroid has. What becomes of it? Well, as the thing slows down, plowing through Earth's atmosphere, the kinetic energy goes back into the object itself, raising its temperature. There's a point where that happens so catastrophically that the entire asteroid detonates. It explodes, and it explodes in midair, and that's exactly what happens. Let's see if I can play this. This was from a dashboard camera.
The music's still on.
In Russia, they all have dashboard cameras. I think dashboard cameras are more effective than lawyers, okay? They just show what happened. Nobody has to argue some perception of the truth, which is what lawyers are paid to do. Anyone pre-law here? Yeah, front row. Pre-law, raise your hand. Oh, you're in law school. Okay, so, you know that. If we have time, ask me after about my experience in jury duty. Put that in, but I didn't know I had law people here. In the front row. This looks like it'll work. You ready? Dashboard camera. Oh, that means go forward. Well, that's embarrassing. Huh? Space bar? You think space bar? Let's try that. Well, it goes to the sky. That's exactly what it does. What's fascinating about it is you see the entire streak. It takes about 4 seconds or so. Over that time, it would move 50 miles in those 4 seconds. And the sky is vast, so 50 miles is quite a bit of stretch. It explodes over here in the right. It's 20 times brighter than the sun. And so it's an extraordinary, it's extraordinary in so what it did. So again, it's only 6 weeks ago, so let's see. Oh, by the way, I got a phone call from the Today Show at 3:30 in the morning. He said, oh, will you come on this morning to talk about the meteor? And I said, oh, the one come in close approach this afternoon? No, the one that hit over Russia 2 hours ago. I said, what? You're joking. Shut up and even let me sleep. Here's the link. And I go see the link, and everybody's got it from every direction. So it took a while to assemble this information, but this is only about 17 meters across. It's about half the size of about 17. That's not even big. 10,000 tons, 40,000 miles an hour, 500 kilotons. So the bomb over Hiroshima on August 6th, 1945, dropped by the U.S. Air Force on Japan, was 20 kilotons. So the energy of this is 25 times greater than what exploded over Japan. The difference is, and by the way, no one died. There's a lot of sort of cuts, facial cuts. You know why? You know why? Because when the thing exploded, it's 20 times brighter than the sun. There's those huge shadows coming in, light coming in through the window. Gee, I wonder what that is. And so just one road into But he didn't do the calculation that light travels faster than sound. Okay? So you see the light essentially instantly, but the shock wave is going the speed of sound. And so by the time you get to the window, bam! Goes in your face. Lesson, when there's a really bright explosion, duck, stay, time it out, and then walk away from the window. Unless you're dressed like this fellow in the aisle there. Sir, could you stand up, please, with the moon suit on? Yes. So the upper deck can see. Just come to the aisle and walk forward. He's going to come forward. I'm wearing like a space helmet. I don't think I'm that contagious. It's a stony meteorite. If it was made of metal, it would have come all the way down. The one that hit Arizona was made of metal. What else did I pick? Yeah, so it collapsed, wall shatters, when 1,000 people were injured. Nobody died. That's the best kind of shot across your bow you could ever have. Nobody dies. Now, I've been telling people for 30 years to watch out for asteroids. I'm in Congress. These things are now on a commission appointed by the president to alert them of the future of space. And I said, they're asteroids. And there's a former member of Congress who said, I can't worry about that, but I have my constituency I need to worry about. If they go extinct, then you won't have to worry about 2 weeks ago, they had a hearing on threats from space. Threats from space. They needed a real one. Now, I could, when a scientist tells you you could die from an asteroid, I think you ought to pay attention to that. I don't want you to pay attention because I am some authority. No, I'll show you the images. I'll show you the energetics. I'll show you what happened. I'll show you craters on the moon. I'll show you stuff. Right? Now, if you don't have the brains to wrap your head around it and make sensible decisions regarding it, I don't know what to say. My favorite dinosaur comic here. All I'm saying is now is the time to develop the technology to deflect an asteroid. Sitting all lazy on the look at the belly on these things. You know what they were eating? They were eating our vertebrate mammal ancestors. We were like hors d'oeuvres for dinosaurs. So I can say that asteroids are bad because it like killed 70% of the species of life on Earth, but it pried open the ecological niche that allowed our mammal ancestors to rise up and no longer be dinner. Had the asteroid not come, they've been around for longer than the time that has passed since they've been extinct. Right? Just think about that. So they're around for this much time, and they've only been extinct for this much time. So there's good argument to suggest that if the asteroid never came, they'd still be here. They'd still be here. It'd be hard to fit in these seats for that. I tweeted this. Someone else created this poster. It was a great poster. Asteroids. Nature's way of asking, how's the space program coming along? Actually, a few years ago, there was a close approach, back in the 90s now. There was an asteroid we thought was going to hit. It was discovered very late. Our ability to calculate an orbit wasn't as good as it is today. So it was like, for a few hours, our calculations showed it was going to hit us. Then we refined the calculations, got better data, and then showed it wouldn't. That all happened inside of one media cycle. Right? Inside of one media cycle. And so the press didn't even have a time to make a headline saying meteor will hit. Because it got undone within that time. And so the New York Post had my favorite headline of all time. Kiss your asteroid goodbye. Don't worry, it'll miss Earth by 600,000 miles. Now, to put this in context, 1998, just to give the priorities of these headlines, what was above this, in fact, even above the banner, was a comment on Leonardo DiCaprio's latest movie. First things first! Inside this issue, they asked people, so what would you do today if you learned that the world's going to end tomorrow with an asteroid? And they went to like college students. Brad Clemmer, 19. I'd probably go to church, and then I'd get drunk. I spend all the money I have on women and alcohol. I'd fly to the Bahamas and sit on a beach with a tequila until the asteroid hit me. So this end of the world juxtaposition between alcohol and church will continue. Elizabeth Payne, okay, not a college student. I get married immediately, since I'm going to get married later anyway. And we forget about that St. Lucian honeymoon. We just start getting loaded right after the wedding. College student number 2. I'd get together with all my friends and my family and have a big farewell party. We would all get drunk. Then I'd go on a date with Cindy Crawford. No, you're not. Why is that in here twice? Here. So, I'm done with asteroids. Let me say they're out there. The risk is real. Most asteroids are just bad. Some are big enough to render us extinct. We want to really keep tabs on these. That's all I'm saying. Now I want to go a world tour here to show you what the world looks like to an astrophysicist. By the way, it's not unique to me. I'm here because I'm on the stage. But any of my colleagues would have the same views as I do, because we have, I like to think of as a cosmic perspective. All right? So let's look at science in the world. So first, the world's most powerful particle accelerator is in Switzerland, and its acronym is CERN. And that's apparently, if you pronounce all the words in French, they're spoken in this order to spell this word. But I don't know French, and it sounds like a stretch anyway. So it's a Center European Research Nuclear. So it's, how'd I do it? No. So it's a European Center for Nuclear Research. And it's a collaboration of European countries. There's a little bit of American money in there too. And they have what's called the Large Hadron Collider, the most powerful particle accelerator in the world. They discovered the Higgs boson, the famous God particle you might have heard about. Headline news just a few months ago. Well, about a year ago, and then more data came out where they confirmed it just a few weeks ago. So this is not in America. This is in Europe. We almost had the most powerful particle accelerator in the world. It would have been 3 times the power of this. It was designed and built in the 1980s. It was going to be put in Waxahachie, Texas. It was going to be 64-mile circumference ring. You can't put that in Rhode Island by saying it's a state big enough. A ring that size. And it would be 3 times this power. We would have discovered all the things they're discovering, but back in the 1990s. But something happened in 1989. Peace broke out. Don't you hate it when that happens? Peace breaks out. And all of a sudden, our funding for the big particle accelerators and the new particle accelerator that we were building evaporated. The entire project was canceled. They gave other reasons. They would never tell you that. They said, oh, it was cost overruns. We couldn't afford it. It was being managed in Texas, and Texas has Johnson Space. There were arguments given, but when you're not at war, people spend less money on stuff like this, especially less money on physics. Because in the 20th century, the physicists invented the bomb, and that was hugely strategic for geopolitical purposes. So here we are. The center of mass of particle physics is no longer in the United States. We've heard a lot about China lately. If you take the smartest 25% of everyone in China, I don't care how you measure it. Take an exam, an interview, it doesn't matter. The smartest of whatever is your metric, the top 25% outnumbers the entire population of the United States. That's what big numbers do for you, right? They got 1.3 billion people. So, what's going on in China? Well, of course, they got the Three Gorges Dam, which is 6 times the power and size of a Hoover Dam. They have a burgeoning aerospace industry. Their economy is growing. That's in China. By the way, this dam is huge. But China is not a stranger to building big things. They built like the wall. Right? Build this off. That was like 500 years ago. They can do this. They can do big things. China rising up on the mission to deflect profits. Remember I said it existed on paper? They're thinking about funding it. Are we? No, Russia is. And then Russia said, who's going to join us? And we say, we want to join you. Include us. And I said, what's wrong with this picture? And then it looks awkward. What's wrong with this picture is we spent 50 years leading the world in space. We would say, who would want to join us? As you fade off the world stage, it's not a cliff. You start becoming less and less relevant. And people start thinking about a future that does not include you, because you have nothing to offer. Russia wants to deflect Apophis. And Russia doesn't even stand to get hurt by Apophis. It's our surfer dude who gets hurt by Apophis. How about Brazil? If I just say Brazil, what's the first thing to come to your head? Just shout it out.
Rio de Janeiro.
Soccer. What else? Rio! Like carnival, right? Okay. Sugar cane. Okay, how about like tongue bikinis, you know? People get stuck. I guess that's on purpose. We here in America, when we think of Brazil, we think we have an image of Brazil that is not the Brazil that's rising up from what it once was. Brazil has an aerospace industry. In fact, it's the third largest aerospace industry in the world. Brazil employs 18,000 people in that industry. Third largest in the world. It's $20 billion annual industry. They designed and invented an airplane that runs on alcohol. We'd rather drink our alcohol.